Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, ModzvilleUSA here, and I can hardly contain myself. Today we've got something very special, very neat, something I saw coming on the pipeline a little bit ago and got very excited for. And this is the new Picoboot project from Webhdx. And what this is we're going to take a Raspberry Pi Pico, and it's going to become a mod chip for the Nintendo Gamecube. Now these Picos, currently, who knows where the market will be tomorrow or the next day, but these are currently going for about $5. We're going to flash it with some software, and we're going to install it in the Gamecube. And compared to the XenoGCs that have been on the market, if you've been around the scene, installed some GameCube Modchips, you're probably familiar with the XenoGC, as well as the Sd2sp2 adapters. And with the XenoGCs, this gets installed in the disk drive, and it allows you to play region-free and burned discs. It's a fine device, but for booting into Swiss, if you install one of these, you still need to burn the latest Swiss disk to boot into it, and hopefully your laser's reading burned discs fine. It is not ideal in a setup where you would like to play burned or play games from an SD card and have your whole library loaded. Not the ideal setup at all. And then also, if you've been in the scene recently, you probably know about the GCloader, which fully replaces the disk drive with an SD card reader. Essentially, it's an ODE, very good compatibility, but you would never be able to play a disc again when you have that in your build. Introducing Picoboot. Now what this is, it basically, we're going to be flashing some software called IPL Boot, a modified version of that, and that will essentially, it'll look for Swiss or whatever you have set as IPL.Dol on the root of your SD card. It will boot to that. So most commonly it would be Swiss, and you would use your Sd2sp2 adapter, pop it in the bottom, have that file there, and it'll boot right to Swiss, no disk needed, etc. Now why do I have this guy here, this neat, very, very cool GameCube I have with the XenoGC shell? It plays full-size discs, old school mods for the GameCube. Well, this has a ViperGC installed. Extreme Edition has a USB for flashing the firmware. Did a janky little cut there so you can get access to that. And these mod chips are very extinct. This is what we used before my time. I didn't use it. These were used back in the day. You can see the mod chip chilling right here. It came flashed with software called Cobra, or you flash that software to it. That's pretty much Swiss does everything Cobra did but better. But back in the day, that was the UI. Roll the footage. I've got some footage of Cobra running, and yeah, very, very neat stuff. But these mod chips haven't been made in a very long time. Neither have their successors like the Qoob Pro, the Ripper 3. A lot of rad mod chips from back in the day that are the nice middle ground between something like the XenoGC that just plays burned and region-free discs, and the full-blown disk drive replacement like the GCloader. With this, we're going to be able to keep our disk. We're going to be booting straight into Swiss and being able to play backups and region-free games. All of that fun stuff. So I'm going to be showing you how to install it in both the both revisions. We've got a Dol-001 here with the digi out port, and I've got a Dol-101 on hand. Now I've gotten confirmation that this does indeed work in the Panasonic Q and all of the other the rarer revisions of Gamecubes, which is fantastic news. And one thing I want to mention too, with the XenoGC, don't throw it away just yet. If you already have one installed, it's totally fine. You can have both installed together, and then with this you still have the advantage of, if you're in the original BIOS, you'll still be able to boot up burned games as well as region-free games, whereas with this solution, it's meant to boot to Swiss from either the SD to memory card slot or the Sd2sp2 Adapter. Without Swiss on one of those devices, this really isn't going to be doing much for you. So the XenoGC in tandem with this is a nice option if you're using a lot of backup media. So something to consider. Totally not necessary to have both, but gives you just a little bit more convenience. And if you're, if you really want to be able to boot it from the original BIOS, you can with this. So yeah, totally fine to have both, and absolutely no problem. So yeah, I want to show you how to install it in both revisions, both the more common ones, the 001 with the digital out port, as well as the 101 without the digital out port. And keep in mind too that some of the 101s also don't have the SP2 port, so your only option for booting Swiss would be the memory card adapters, which aren't as good, unfortunately. So yeah, keep that in mind, and if you don't already have a Gamecube, get one with the digital out port. They're just better. So yeah, let's get rolling. Okay, first thing you're going to want to do is come on over here to the Webhdx Picoboot GitHub and cruise on over to the releases, Picoboot. We're going to grab this picoboot.uf2, give it a download, and there we go. Okay, now we're going to take our Pi Pico here. We're going to hold the boot select button and plug it in with micro USB. There we go, just like that. Okay, it's saying the device is ready to go. So I'm going to come on over here. Okay. So you should see your device. Mine's showing up as RPI-RP2. And we're just going to drag this, drag the Picoboot file right on over it. Alright, disconnected, and we got a green light. Check this out. So if you did it right, you should hear that disconnect sound. You should get a green light on this bad boy. And yeah, let's install it. Okay, so we're going to wire this bad boy up. It's a 5-wire install. And I think I got a good idea for this. I'm going to use a ribbon cable. So yeah, let's get that going. Okay, so I'm just going to cut a bit of length off of this 28 AWG ribbon wire here. You don't need to use something like this, but this should make the install a bit cleaner. I also considered using one of these connector kits here, just so there's we have like a quick disconnect in the middle. But you know what, I thought it's gonna be really easy to just get in here and hook up a USB It doesn't need to be powered or anything like that. So really, I'm going to hold off on this. Definitely something worth considering doing if you want to be able to quick disconnect down the line. Okay, so I've gone ahead, separate and pre-tinned 5 wires here. The colors are not going to match perfectly, but I think I trust you guys can live with that. So I'm going to keep red for 3 volts here. How do I want this? I want these coming out the back. So this is what I'm going to do. Push it through, give it a bend. And flux it up. Tin it. We'll clean that up in a moment and just get the rest of the wires here connected. So back to the diagram again. So it's just GP4, GP5, and do not forget to bridge GP6 and 7, and then ground is way down here. So yeah, let's do it. Okay, so here's what I ended up with. Now I'm probably going to have some excess wire, and I'm going to trim that down for the install. But we got everything wired up. GP4, GP5, 6 and 7. Did a little bit of an excess. Wires coming through, reaches over, bridges, same wire coming from the back. It's folded over, and I opted to use the closer ground pad here. By 3.3 volts. I use the ground right here, 3rd pin from the top. Not sure if there's a reason the diagram is using the ground way down here, but I'm going to try it like this just because it'll keep the wiring a little bit cleaner, so we don't need to stretch this one way out over here. So yeah, let's install this in our 001 Dol-001. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I have spared you from the main teardown. A million screws to get inside of a GameCube, but we're going to need to remove the heatsink underneath the disk drive, so let's do that. Right, remove the last 2 screws completely and get some more wiggle room. Really gotta wiggle this fucker. Ooh. Okay. Lost a little bit of a thermal pad there. We'll be alright. Alright, let's install it. Okay, so here is the where we're going to be installing it on the board. Pretty damn simple mod. One thing I wanted to point out that I noticed, I swapped some wires around just because I want to keep the 2 wires together that are going to be going to this chip here. So the GP6 and 7 and GP4, I went ahead and swapped those around. See the green and the yellow. The GP7, 6 and 7, GP4, just so these can go off and do their own thing. Just should make the install look a bit cleaner, keeping those together on the ribbon cable there. So yeah, that's about it. It doesn't matter, it's just purely aesthetic, but something I wanted to focus on. So yeah, there's that. We're going to install it, and the way these style mod chips work for the GameCube is they route right around here. We're going to need to bend some shielding, and it's just going to pretty much sit like right here. Yeah, so we're going to keep that in mind. I want to keep this nice and taut, but give it a little bit of breathing room here. So I'm going to clip off these 3, or separate What I have is brown, red, and orange. So those are all going in this area. Yellow and green are going to come up here. So let's do that. Okay, I've separated out these wires here, and I'm going to give it a bit of slack, just like this. First install, I want to see what kind of wiggle room we are working with here. So I'm going to let the cables kind of like lay flat against this. It's going to mount like right here. So I'm going to snip these three like right about there. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that is installed. I like the ribbon cable, but this definitely makes it much more, makes the install a little trickier. I think this is pretty good. I'm going to test it, but let's get on to the installation for the 101. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are on to the Dol-101 model, the one without the digital out port, and As you can see, the install is pretty much the same, except we need to fully remove the board and solder to the bottom side as well as the top side. It's just those 2 points there that are on the bottom. So slightly different layout, but everything here is the same. I use the ground that's closer to here just to keep the wires you know, a little bit tidier than shooting down there. You can use any ground you want. I think this is probably the best one to choose right here. Nice and close, easy peasy. But yeah, let's do it. I've already gone ahead and wired this bad boy up here. Different colors again, but yeah, keep if you're doing it the ribbon cable like I am, you want to keep those two together is the main one. So I got purple and blue, blue going to GP6 and 7, purple going to GP4, because those are going to route to the bottom of the board. The other ones go on the top of the board. So yeah, that's the only thing I'd recommend with the ribbon. Keep those ones together. And yeah, same old shit. Let's install it. So we're gonna start with the top side here. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it here. Let's see, so I'll make sure that goes flat, and seems like plenty of slack there. Alright, so when you go to put your disk drive back in, you're probably going to notice it's a little wonky, a little weird. Cables are getting pinched, and that's for each revision, the Dol-101 and the 001. All you gotta do, simply deal with this bad boy here. You know what? You don't want to be destructive. Just bend it up like that. Let's just do that. Alright. Okay, so I've mostly put this back together. The only real thing left to do here is to mount this bad boy. And we are going to do it. Mounts just like this on the plastic of the fan. Fits perfectly. Look at that. Look at that alignment with the fan. That's it's actually kind of nuts. It's like exact. So I'm gonna peel this off and just slap it on. Very nice. And would you look at that? Now this console could use a little bit of cleaning, but overall that's a pretty damn good Modchip install. Looks good, feels good, I dig it. So yeah, the next thing we gotta do is some simple software setup, and we are up and running. Okay, so before we get into the software setup, I just wanted to show you just kind of how everything sits and what you should expect if you install it like this, dialing in the proper amount of slack, etc. And this is I feel like this install slack wise is pretty perfect. A little bit more slack wouldn't really hurt, but yeah, if say you want to get to the disk drive here, just floats off just like that, nice and perfect. And pretty much the way it is right here, the slack from the slack I have on this matches the slack I have here from the from this power cable over here on the fan power supply daughter board there. So yeah, this is I like the ribbon cable install for these. Very nice, very good. Everything's still accessible. It's mounted, it's not floating around. It fits literally perfectly with the fan. Yeah, this works out very, very nicely. So yeah, let's set up the software. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is plug in your micro SD card to your computer, and we're going to need to format it to FAT32 apparently, but I'm using exFAT and it's working totally fine. I've been using exFAT with Swiss for many a moons. I haven't run into any issues. The instructions claim to use FAT32, but in my experience, exFAT is working totally fine on a 512 gigabyte SD. But if you want to go FAT32, that's totally fine. Just use GUI format, open it up, give it a format. You're going to lose everything on your SD card, obviously. And the one thing worth noting is it won't run if you have Windows Explorer open, and some other applications will cause issues too. For me, Adobe Premiere, if I have Premiere open, it won't work. So yeah, that is the main one to check is Windows Explorer. But if you get an error, close some other applications, and eventually it will format. Just make sure it's the right drive there. After that, we need to. So you got your SD card all set up. Now the only thing you need to do is come on in here and grab the latest release of Swiss. And we'll go ahead and grab that, save it, and once you have it, we're going to crack it open and we're going to find the Dol file. So it should be right in here. So we got an ELF file, we got a Dol file. So we're going to take this and you're going to navigate to your USB drive, and we're going to move the Dol file to the root of our SD. And then I'm going to delete this IPT or IPL.dol file here. I already have one set up. IPL.dol, and that's it. So whenever you want to update Swiss, you just grab the latest one, you put it on the root of your SD and rename it to IPL.dol, and you're up to date. Now might be a good time to set up your SD card with your games, your applications. I'm not going to be going over all that, but the best app you want to get is GBI for playing your Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games from the Game Boy player. Very nice app, and it's just much better than the official Nintendo one, and it's free and regularly updated. So get that if you're into playing Game Boy games. Also, for games, you really want to look into either converting to the NKit format or just going on archive.org and getting a pre-made NKit converted ISOs. And essentially what this is it just compresses the image to be something that's usable with Swiss. It's much more modern. There was older methods of compressing games, and compatibility is all over the place with that stuff. But this is the way to go, and it's reversible, I believe. So you can convert it to NKit and then convert it back to the original one, and you really save a lot of space with this. Otherwise, all the games are, I think, 1.5 gigabytes. Some of these, like Casper's, down to like 278 megabytes. Yeah, you really get a lot of bang for your buck with storage when it comes to using NKit. But yeah, that's pretty much all you need to know. GBI, that's the app you want if you get anything. There is emulators, but GameCube's not the best for emulation of like other systems. Wouldn't really recommend dabbling in that unless you have no other options for your emulation device. But yeah, NKit games, use GBI, you're golden. Leave a comment down below if there's other homebrew apps that you highly recommend, and I'll check them out. But this is what I like. Okay, now, so here is the Sd2sp2 adapter. It's very simple. It doesn't lock in too well. It's going to be a little loose. That shouldn't be a problem. So this side faces inside, this side faces outside. Read the PCB. This side faces outside. This is the outside, just so you know. This is the inside. Plugs in right there, and you should be able to fit the port cover back on top of this, no problem. I don't have any at the moment, but yeah. And if you don't have the SP2 port, which I don't on my Dol-101, you can use the little SD card, or the SD to memory card, but those aren't as good. Really just get your hands on one with the digi-out port and the SP2 port, which is most GameCubes. But yeah, if you're in a pinch, if you don't have the SP2 port, you can use the memory card one. I think compatibility is just not as good with those. So yeah, you can use it. It'll work, but it's not the best option. So let's fire this up, and I'll show you how it works. Well, alright, ladies and gentlemen, we booted right up into the latest release of Swiss. Now from here, if you're familiar with Swiss, it's all the same. So we still have, unlike the GCloader, we still have access to our disk drive. And from Swiss we can burn a game, boot it right up. We just hit B, A to eject, go to DVD. I don't have a DVD in at the moment, but I have tested with some backup discs as well as retail discs. Takes a little bit longer to load a game than with the XenoGC, but I believe the added benefit of being able to boot straight into Swiss without needing a burned boot disk to get into Swiss is a massive advantage, because GameCubes can be really wonky when it comes to getting burned media to play. Similar with PS2, you really got to dial down the resistance of that pot to get it to work, and sometimes it just doesn't. You gotta replace the laser. It might read regular discs totally fine, but burn discs are always a totally different story. And so here's my dream, or my Gamecube 512 build. It's not the full set. I would need a terabyte for that, but it's pretty much anything I'd ever, you really leave out a lot of crap. But yeah, this is plenty good. And if we want to pick a game, I'm just gonna pick one. Set to 480p. And there we go. We're in the game. Well, alright, ladies and gentlemen, that is the Picoboot installation and a mellow little showcase of setup software. Everything you need. If you have questions, leave them in the comments below. Consider donating to Webhdx over here, just by sponsoring them over here on GitHub. This is a hell of a project, and very, very cool. Like, this is some of the most exciting modding news to me. Yeah, these IPL boot style mod chips. There's just really been nothing on the market like this for quite some time, and for it to be on a $4 easy to get device like a Pi Pico, it's just extra nice. Now this video's gotten plenty long already, so I'm not going to go over basic GameCube maintenance, but while you're in here, search around for some videos. I think Voltar's GameCube video, he went over it in the GC dual install video. Basically, while you're in here, a few definitely good maintenance things. You're going to want to swap this coin cell holder out with a coin cell holder, as well as if you want to get burn discs reading, you're going to want to pop this out and dial in the resistance for the potentiometer, because no GameCube I've ever worked on like that, it'll read, even if it's reading games perfectly fine. You put a burn game in it, like none of them, they never just read them like stock. You've got to dial the resistance down to get it to read it all. And if it doesn't, it might go lower and lower and it just never works, and you might need to get a new laser. But yeah, there's other videos on that. Just look into that. Also the controller port LEDs, there's a lot of cool shit that you can do while you're in here, so I want to leave some resources down below if you want to keep tinkering, make your GameCube extra sexy. But yeah, that's it. Now hopefully, closing a hopeful note is maybe one day someone will come out with new cool shells with the full-size discs, now that these are easy to get in here, easy and obtainable with the Picoboot. I like it. I think it's it's a more versatile choice than the GC loader, just because you got access to the discs and pretty much the same functionality as the GC loader being taken care of on the bottom here. So yeah, really love this kind of a setup. So hopefully we get some new dope shells that allow for full-size DVD-Rs in the future, but that is some wishful thinking. Anyways, dudes, I've rambled on long enough. Thank you for watching, and see you on the next one. Peace.